or any of that crap.
No. He knew exactly what was going on, where, who, what, where, when, how, why. He knew all that. That's not a problem.
Carol says he was an unusual man.
The eccentric is a good word to use.
Carol's smart. She's setting the stage for him. You just think of this as you don't know what the hell happened. She spent time setting the stage for the dementia and the forgetfulness.
According to diary entries allegedly written by Carol, she was feeling boxed in by Don's notorious cheating.
It's no use to leave mine, and I wish there was some way out for me.
Police combed the area, but after a year and a half of investigating numerous theories, police still have no suspects.
Somebody, sometime, someplace, somewhere, somehow wanted to be rid of Don Lewis. And apparently they got their way. My understanding was that he was killed. We'll go there.
I need my clapper. I need my clapper, Mark. What are you doing?
Go in front of the camera and say take two. Take two.
Well, everything was fine, just as sweet as wine, but her husband went and disappeared. But then it got a little crazy, it got a little hazy, and the cops said there's something wrong here. Oh, here, kitty, kitty.
For the best thing he's done, it's worth just bringing up. The music video, Here Kitty Kitty, about Carol killing her husband. And a look-alike Carol walking along with him while he's singing, feeding body parts to her cats. He's got an extreme shit. You haven't seen Here Kitty Kitty, you don't know what you're missing.
Joe had everyone convinced she'd murdered her husband, and we were all going with it. And me, as a reality show producer, oh, I was, fuck yeah, man, roll the cameras, you know?
So the whole world's wondering, would you actually grind your husband up, feed him to the tiger so there's no evidence? I'm gonna show you some stuff that will put that right in your head.
Prosecute, there's just no use, there's nothing left but tiger trap.
People want to believe something that's just totally outlandish, and so it has been a problem.
These tigers have such an acidic stomach that when you feed them a whole turkey, there's no bones that come out. Okay, it's gone.
Is there any chance that Don had been killed by one of his cats?
No,
Why?
didn't happen. There'd be a body, there'd be blood, there'd be this, there'd be that. No. There wasn't a cat out there that could eat 100 pounds of flesh. There'd be skeleton, there'd be bones, there'd be something.
His own kids demanded that they DNA test the meat grinder. Sheriff's office wouldn't do it.
We had a meat grinder. If you've ever seen a Butcher Boy meat grinder, it's about that big around. That became like this wholly exciting thing.
Sheriff's office.
That I ran
You all right?
that
You look
grinder.
stressed. Oh, we had some difficult
Couldn't run
games.
his hands.
Adult missing
His body.
I mean, there's another theory that one of the buildings we built is a septic tank underneath it. Somebody was put in that.
He's the only man I've ever loved. We could ever get a law to go in there and dig up that septic tank. I promise you, he's on the list
in the morning from Miami.
This is a solid bill. We'll take it
And that
when
was
we
the
do
last
some
thing he said. The last thing he...
Get me the fuck out from under the septic tank.
It was in the ground, it was operational, moved into the property before Don ever disappeared. So how would I then put him in the septic tank?
He was shipping
after that.
shipping some that I needed him to tell me
I
something.
believe that
I
there's
kept
a lot
waiting
of
for him
people
to
out
call
there
me. He
that
didn't call
speculate.
me. I
Don't have
started
anything
calling
to back
him.
it up.
Didn't answer
One
the
day,
phone. Didn't answer
somebody's
the
gonna stub
phone.
their toe.
This continued
Here's a
all
guy.
through Saturday and all through
Her name is
Sunday.
Carmen.
I got no
She
answer.
has 6 months.
I finally got a hold of Carol. She says, do you think I should call the police? And I said, do you think?
could do in terms of trying to put those to rest, but Jack Don Lewis in his last 6 months, Jack Don was reported missing on the night that anybody was watching at about 1:30. Now, having said that, truly the most information we get from people closest that detectives walk where we
And about 48. Probably the closest person alive to Don.
Apparently there was
She watched
nothing
out
there
for
that
this interest.
suggested that they should pursue
Don
that area.
He would have been lost.
Found nothing.
I cooperated in every
Then after 3 or 4 days, we
fashion
found his
they
van
wanted.
abandoned at an
Who were
airport.
the other suspects?
I think it was
With the
man
keys still in it, his briefcase in it, but no Don
In
Lewis.
any investigation like this,
didn't make sense.
you go to
Like with what he
the
said
husband
to me,
or the
if he was
wife
truly wanting
or
to
whatever
disappear and
close
nobody
family
know where he
member
was at, if you leave
that
your
is still
van where you
surviving,
got
is
in a
still
plane to
around.
take off, you wouldn't want nobody to know he was in the plane because that's now a
Carol's
girl.
brother was with the sheriff's department.
I think someone else drove the van there. I don't know.
Sort of, well, you know, that's my sister's house.
I think the police did a horrible job the investigation side. The cops never looked at the van when it was at the airport,
I'm sure he would just
and they let them bring that van
Her
back
brother
to
worked for
these
the sheriff's department,
and it
but I
was
don't
there for a
think-
couple of days before the cops
I
came
don't
to
think
look at the van.
there was
They
usually
even looked in the van. A couple of days that van sat there.
I never really knew my brother because, gosh, by the time I was 15, he would have been, what, 9? So we never had much
They
of a
came and
relationship.
spoke with me
It's
because
funny,
they
you
found
grew
my
up to be a sheriff's
fingerprints inside
deputy,
of his van.
which was the last thing I ever thought
4
my brother
days
would grow up
before
to
he
be.
disappeared, he
Because
dropped
he
his
was
van
so
for me to
shy.
do some work to it.
The day
He
that
tried to
Don
talk
went
me into
missing,
going to Costa Rica. He said, come
the
on and go to Costa
investigation
Rica.
indicated Carol
anybody go to
had
Costa Rica?
left wildlife on Easy Street to
liked it there.
drive to a nearby store named Albertsons to pick up some milk byproduct. The long-term plan, according to the investigation, was that her car broke down and ran into by another deputy down to the second deputy, gave her a ride. We actually sent myself and another detective and did multiple interviews down there. Nowhere just several hours later, and he was
Like some more saying.
And I don't know, but I would have hoped that the detectives would have pursued that and made sure that there was nothing
Tell me something.
out of the ordinary about that.
Maybe if you have a sheriff that's in there that's saying, you know, hey, this guy's kind of crazy and, you know, dementia and he does this all the time, he's probably in, you know, maybe the sheriff's department would drag their feet at that point and be like, well, you know, let's just wait and see where it goes.
In her family, there just wasn't a lot of love for Don. I know her father, Carol's father, Vernon, could not stand it. Absolutely could not stand Don.
So Carol's dad, Vernon, come and build cages with me. He definitely had his daughter's back.
I just felt like Carol did something and they needed to protect her and get the money. Just get the money.
After Don disappeared, Carol and Vernon, her dad, had asked me, Kenny, we need to get something from the office. And like I say, I did this kind of stuff for Don Lewis for years. When he needed something done, I would just go do it for him.
I got a phone call stating that the office alarm had gone off and Carol was there. Her and Kenny Farr had cut the locks on the gate, cut the locks on the office.
Cut the power to the trailer, cut the water, cut the sewer. The cops come because the alarm went off. Ann McQueen come up because that's her office, you know what I mean? She's been there for years.
There were 2 wills and there were 2 power of attorney in my office in a box underneath my desk.
But whatever paperwork or whatever they needed, there was nothing that the cops could do to stop the wife taking anything.
The will and the power of attorney, they were all taken in the office that day. I was the executor for both of their wills. I was the power of attorney for both of them.
Who was the power of attorney on the new documents? No,
Not me. That means power of attorney gave her control over the estate.
but she prepared his power of attorney. A normal person would put upon my death, you know, first sentence, upon my disappearance.
Isn't it suspicious that the power of attorney says upon my disappearance? Is that normal verbiage?
I have, in 37 years, never seen it say, or disappearance. Never have. In that respect, it's terribly unusual. I don't know who anticipates, everybody anticipates your death, but who in the world anticipates disappearance?
And how did Carol behave in the aftermath of his disappearance?
After Don disappeared, Carol and her family got rid of everybody that worked for Don. They got rid of everything that he owned.
There was a note pinned to the refrigerator door. It said, "Never speak that man's name again in this house." Do you remember that? I remember that very well.
But then what about all of Don's assets? Not the insurance policy, but
I have nothing to do with that.
all his real estate, all of his holdings.
The will wouldn't have come into play because if she disappeared, you can't do anything for 5 years. So Carol had him declared literally dead 5 years and 1 day after his disappearance.
And here's the latest on the case. A judge has just declared Lou is dead since he's been missing 5 years. The Hillsborough County Sheriff's deputies say they will keep the case open until they have proof.
A lot of things happened during those 5 years. A lot of things were moved around.
She took out a lot of good things for herself and putting bad things in their accounts.
We ended up with all the yucky stuff.
She was taking property out of Don's name and our names and putting it in her name.
I was the other woman for years after the kids came back, and they said that the mother didn't get a fair settlement, and they tried to take him back to court and get more money out of him. That's when he disowned them. And so he said to nullify their trust, but I didn't because I felt like those were his kids, and someday he's going to feel differently, so I left it in place.
So what's the theory that makes the most sense?
Well, there's no proof. I feel the one that would benefit the most from something happening to my father is Carol.
She knows.
You've got to look at it in the eyes of the law. I mean, I can sit here on this interview and tell you I killed 37 people a week. Well, that's okay. But you got to have the bodies. It doesn't count.
Oh, you got me.
His wife says the worst part is not knowing. No closure and no redemption for her.
There's no way that I can finally... I can't do it.
Nothing has ever shown up on this case whatsoever.
That poor woman is having to live under a cloud of suspicion.
She sure is.
Hell, for the fun of it, let's see. Carol's bitching that she has this black cloud over her head of people thinking that she fed her husband to the tigers.
I mean, imagine that maybe she didn't have anything to do with it. Let's say she did love Don and she did mourn his death tremendously.
What were they saying?
To live with people
Did they say I sleep
constantly saying
naked?
those things
It's
and making
none of their
those
business how I
accusations,
sleep.
You know, that
None of their business.
can be hurtful and can change a person too.
And was there ever a formal memorial or funeral or anything? So no one...
I remember
Walking in
the
and
day
she was
his
like, she's
death
about to vote.
certificate
True.
came. Yeah. I opened the letter and I remember
Hold on, I
looking
just
out
realized
the
something.
window, and then the next time I remembered anything, it was pitch black outside. It was just like I had just completely zoned.
I realized
out.
that
I don't know where I went, but that was the closest thing that I had to watch this show.
And what about
Is I going to be able to see this one?
We definitely did not end up
Do you think that
with,
Attack on Skins will ever return?
if I had to say it, probably 10%.
Sure.
You inherited only 10% of his estate.
where did the rest
A person who has just as much in-depth dev knowledge as you do. Your guess is as good as mine. What are the best add-ons on the killer? On Xeno?
And it is an
I would still say the
exact
best are probably the anti-turret add-ons.
The ownership of money and property comes from doing things in a certain way. Those who do things in a certain way, whether on purpose or
I don't know why you're asking me.
accidentally, get rich.
Like, people have been asking, like, when we have literally no teaser or information about the upcoming killer, people will just be like, who do you think the next killer is going to be? And I'm like, fucking dude, what the
I
hell?
would
I don't know.
characterize her as
I always say Shrek every time.
reasonably rational.
Shrek is always my answer. Every single time. Because
We
there's
met
no
on
way to
November
know.
1st in 2002. On November 1st, 2004, we got married.
My number one goal in life is going to be to make this woman happy.
I'd love to be able to attend a funeral, see a headstone.
Eventually I'll be right, yeah.
I would
Eventually,
like
one of
to.
these days.
What about justice?
That would be nice.
Just do Terminator. Well, they've already like worked with that license anyway. I just don't think that license wants to work with them anymore because they got the license for Carol and Death Garden, which was it was another asymmetrical game that Behavior was making that utterly
There's nothing
flopped.
that I really want to say to is that I know that the only reason that they are saying that the DLC in that game is because they cited me as a threat to their livelihood.
I think the license holders for Terminator are like, with that last time being their driving motivation, there's nothing I'm gonna say or do. It fucking went awful. So I don't think they want to work with Behavior again. That's just my guess.
We never felt that it was investigated well enough. They did say Carol was the prime suspect at the time, but until, like she said, until someone comes forward.
I cannot tell you that we have zeroed in on any particular suspect. I'd be remiss if I said that. There is absolutely no physical evidence at this point.
I mean, it already kind of got
that would
over.
point at one particular
When we started to speak out, they did People's Magazine. Inside Edition came to talk to us, and hard copy, I believe, wanted to. That's when we got the thing from Carol to stop. I have the money, you do not. And if you continue talking, I will take everything away from you and your family.
I'm playing the Bloodlet.
That's why we got to speak.
Because you're
I'm having fun not playing.
Oh, yes, I am.
Right.
I'm taking Carol on because everyone else is scared too.